The Center for Migration Studies of New York commissioned over 20 papers on different aspects of the refugee protection system by leading scholars for a special collection of the Journal on Migration and Human Security entitled Rethinking the Global Refugee Protection System. In this video, Volker Türk, UNHCR's Assistant High Commissioner for Protection, discusses his paper, Prospects for Responsibility Sharing in the Refugee Context.
Well, the paper starts with an analysis of the current magnitude, the scope and the scale of displacement challenges that the world faces today, with an increase in terms of numbers of refugees and internally displaced, over 65 million. We just issued a report a couple of weeks ago which showed the massive increase in forced displacement around the world. So it describes that background. It also describes the protection environment in which we are currently in, with lots of different tendencies. We have on the one hand increasing numbers of people who flee to first countries of asylum. They are facing particular challenges. But we also have seen restrictions in terms of admission, in terms of access to protection and to asylum. And we have also seen in some instances a waning quality of asylum in a number of continents. We are proposing against this backdrop, and this is what the paper does, a responsibility sharing framework, because it's clear that one country cannot resolve issues of forced displacement on its own. It requires international cooperation, it requires a collective will to deal with these issues. And the paper, as a result, deals with a number of very concrete recommendations on how to make this work in today's world. So the key policy recommendations revolve around responsibility sharing. First of all, addressing root causes, the root causes of displacement, and the root causes of displacement, as you know, are related very often to violent conflict, to human rights violations, to insecurity, to public disorder, to lack of governance. So it's clear that action needs to be taken by the international community to address these root causes. Second, to deal with what type of support countries require when they are faced with a large-scale influx, for instance, in terms of reception arrangements, in terms of access to education and health and work, shelter arrangements, identification issues. And it also deals with regular pathways of admission, such as through resettlement, through humanitarian admission, through facilitating family reunification. And taken together, it then proposes a stronger, comprehensive refugee response framework when countries are faced concretely with large-scale influx of refugees and forced displacement issues. I think it's extremely important in today's discussions that the political debate and the media debate is informed by facts and by evidence and is not driven by emotions, by fear, and by political populism. I think that's the starting point. In terms of the facts, refugees are people who are compelled to flee because of violence, because of human rights violations, because of insecurity, because of public disorder. So I think we need to know that, and we need to understand that, and we need to listen to the stories that the refugees themselves are telling us about what happened to them in their home country. I think that's very important. It is also important to know that a very specific legal regime was established to respond to the needs of refugees. It was done in the wake of the Second World War because of what happened, the horrors of the Second World War, and because many refugees could not get access to safety. And I think there was a very clear sentiment of never again after the Second World War. And as a result, a very clear and solid legal framework was established. It's the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, the 1967 Protocol. There are a number of regional instruments that govern refugee protection. And that solid legal framework has saved millions of lives over the last couple of decades. It's an instrument of safety. It's an instrument that has proven its value in today's world. It's an instrument that needs to be honored and appreciated, also in a context where things have become more complicated. I think it's important to be aware of it and to fight for it, because it's one of the big manifestations of civilization today, and it's one of those time-honored traditions that we not just deal with the present but also deal with the future.